say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Welcome to the Falmouth Police Department's Behind the Badge. I'm Chief Riello, and thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to take you behind the badge, the training badge, take you into our world, talk about some of the things that we do as police officers, some of the equipment we use, the firearms, all of those things that you've probably seen on TV, and hopefully you're watching us on TV, and we'll explain some of these things and explain to you why we carry these pieces of equipment, how they benefit us, and also how they benefit you. The other thing that we're going to talk about, and you'll see some clips today of some training, annual training that we do each year in the Falmouth Police Department. It involves qualifications for our firearms, also the baton, our PR-24 it's known as, and you'll see some clips about that. And we'll try to explain to you why we train the way we do and how you benefit as a community. And with me on the show today are the experts of the Falmouth Police Department, folks that deal with this on a daily basis. They're highly trained professionals, and they are trained to serve you. And let me introduce these folks right now. First, Sergeant Reed. Sergeant, welcome. Sergeant is a 12-year veteran of the, was it 12?
12 years on the force.
12-year veteran of the Falmouth Police Department, wears many hats. I'm going to have him introduce, tell you a little bit about himself in a minute. But we have Eric Kraus, who's been around for 22 years on the Falmouth Police Department.
22.
Serving this community. And Officer James Rogers, who's been around for 13 years. Welcome, guys. Thanks for coming today. Again, these are the people that do a lot of our training. They are experts. So, Sarge, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and also the stuff that you instruct.
Okay. Thank you, Chief, for having us. I am Sergeant Brian Reed, 12 years on the Falmouth Police Department, 5 years working as a supervisor for the firearms instruction team. We have 6 instructors on the team, along with Officers Kraus and Rogers. We have Officer Dean Eisen, Officer James Pyers, who is a detective now and has a tremendous amount of experience with Eric as a firearms instructor, and you can go into that a little more. And we have Sergeant Scott Hartzler, who also assists with the team. And we have an excellent core of instructors teaching firearms instruction and use of force instruction at the Falmouth Police Department.
Great. Eric, a little bit about yourself. And
22 years, Falmouth Police Department. I've been a use of force instructor and a PR-24 instructor since 1997, and I've continued with firearms since then, instructing with those. So it's been good. It's a long run. It's
good, very good. James,
we've been with the Falmouth Police Department for 13 years. I was born right in Falmouth Hospital. Graduated Falmouth High School. Went in the military for 4.5 years, came back, went to college, and ended up here at the police department. I'm also firearms instructor, patrol rifle instructor, PR-24 instructor, and I have some other instructor courses under my belt also, which helps me, train the department.
Okay, great. You know, before we get into some of the action clips that we have that were taken of some recent training that we just conducted, let's talk a little bit about the baton, and we call it the baton, the PR-24. You know, we've all mentioned that, made reference to it, and folks may not be familiar with that. So let's start with that. Maybe, you know, and in fact, we could even, I know you have yours with you. Eric, if you want to tell us a little bit about it, show the baton, and I'm sure they can get a good shot of that as well, and explain how it's so different, you know, with the handle and that kind of thing, and how it's designed to be used.
Well, it's a PR-24 control device, it's called. Side handle baton, 24 inches long, it's got a side handle on it. It's a very useful tool. Almost impossible to get it taken away from you. That's the reason that we like them. It's a great defensive tool and offensive if you need it also. Comes in handy. It's expandable. One of the biggest problems we had was the officers didn't want to carry these because they were so big before and they were so long. Monadnock did a great job in redesigning this so it'll retract, it's compact, it fits on your belt nice. You can sit in the cruiser, you can get out and keep it with you all the time. When you need it, it's with you.
Okay, good. And now again, before we get into the clip, how would you, people say, okay, you've got this baton, this PR-24. When do you use it? How do you use it? You know, what, I guess the first question would be, when do you use it? You know, it's not like we go around just, you know, using that and swatting at people and people that we see on the street. When would you use the PR-24?
Well, we go by use of force continuum, Chief, is what we use to, anytime we have to use force on something, you know, on an assaulted subject or anytime we get into a confrontation.
Sure. Okay.
So it depends on the use of force that's used against us, how far we can go with the tools we have.
Okay, yeah. All right, so that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
James?
It's somebody who, we would use that as somebody who's assaultive towards us, physically assaultive, they're attacking us, and that would be the tool that we would use when somebody's trying to attack a police officer physically. You know, if people are cooperative, I mean, I would like to never use this tool. You know, it makes my job a lot easier when people are just cooperative and they go along with us. And I mean, we like it a lot better that way. But there are certain people in society who just don't want to go along with the program, and for some reason they want to attack us. I have no idea why.
Right. No,
but you know,
no.
But they do. They want to attack us, and then
people.
we have to have these tools to use.
All right. Good. Sarge, anything else on that? As
Yeah,
far as
the use of force in general, and it's something that we instruct every year when we do our annual firearms instruction, and also we refresh it again throughout the year at different times when we have the opportunity. But the use of any force in the Falmouth Police Department is consistent with the Massachusetts Training Council's use of force continuum, and that's built around case law, and it's designed to ensure that the officers always have the appropriate level of force to try to reestablish control in the situation with the minimal possibility of injury to us, to the suspects, to the general public.
Sure. Okay, good. No, I think that's important to understand, you know, especially for our viewers, because they do see us, you know, with the different equipment, and a lot of times on TV, what they see is people, you know, going right to the sidearm, you know, in the firearm, but that's what makes TV. And I think they have to understand that, you know, it's not essentially just up to the officer. It's up, the situation governs the way that we respond. And as the sergeant said, you know, this is determined through case law, and it's the procedures that we follow have been designed by the state and are common to all police departments across the Commonwealth and beyond, actually. Let's take a look at the PR-24 clip that we have. Maybe you can run that and maybe just comment, one of you fellows can comment on what's going on, who the bad guy is, and what's going on with the, you know, with the PR-24.
It's just a series of blocking drills we're going through right there. High blocks, low blocks, inside, outside blocks. It's just designed to get them used to something different coming at them, other than just you know, hitting a plain bag.
Okay.
It's done intentionally to be, you know, relatively low speed, low impact. It's about, you know, just repeating the muscle movements and getting used to repetitive action to drill the fundamentals.
Okay. And same with this type of situation where you're using the pad there, or the block and dummy.
Yeah, you know, keep guys up on their strikes and have them, actually hitting an object. And
so it's not a matter of just, I think the thing we want to point out, it's not just a matter of grabbing this thing and deciding to go crazy with it or use it however. I mean, everything that you folks are seeing on the screen are orchestrated movements. These are the people that our officers are trained in those types of strikes.
Absolutely, and when you see the officers striking the bags there, it might be reminiscent to some people of things they've seen on TV, news media clips of other cases that have been sort of made into spectacles. But when we train the people to use the baton in a use of force scenario, we train them to target specific areas of the body to minimize the personal injury to the individual. Our goal isn't to hurt people. Our goal is to reestablish control of the situation or establish control of the situation.
Exactly. That's the purpose, and that's what the force continuum is all about. It's about, again, gaining control and and taking care of the situation, minimizing the damage to the officer, the perpetrator, and the public. So the course, there's a specific training course for the officers. This is kind of like a refresher that we do on a regular basis. But what is the actual training course for the PR-24?
It's an 8-hour course we put them through.
Okay.
We go through everything that you just saw, the blocks, the different strikes. There's also some arm lock techniques and some extraction techniques that we teach them. But it's an 8-hour course they go through, and they're certified at the end of it. They have to take a written test as well as a practical test.
Right. So we can't just issue the PR-24 and say, here you go, folks. Go out and have a nice day.
Right.
You've got to be specifically trained. You're all specifically trained as instructors and well qualified to do that. Great. Let's talk. I think the next clips that we have are the handgun clips. Maybe we can talk a little bit of we can roll those. Again, those are, maybe you can comment, Sarge, if you like, on
Certainly.
What's happening there.
Well, what you're seeing in the clip that's rolling right now is it's static handgun qualification. We shoot a course of instruction where we put the targets at set distances and have the officers shoot various rounds of fire into the targets. The main objective of static qualification versus dynamic qualification is that we're working on marksmanship fundamentals in something like this. And it's an important thing to do. It's required by the state for us to do, and I think it's a critical component to being able to effectively police in Falmouth is to obviously be able to effectively use your handgun if necessary. The static qualification course, there's maybe 5 rounds of fire altogether at different ranges, and they shoot under different situations, 2 rounds, 3 rounds. There's time constraints involved in the static qualification course, and we always fire at a mass criminal justice Q target. It's the same target we use for every course of qualification, and that's all prescribed by the state.
And officers have to get at least an 80% to pass.
To
you have to qualify. You have to be 80% or higher, which is it's a high standard, which it should be.
Sure.
For handgun qualification.
Well, no, I think that's important. I mean, the officers have to be able to know how to use the sidearm. And what about any remedial type? If someone doesn't qualify, what do we do then at that point? Let's say they just can't hit the target. Before we take their gun away from them,
Right.
Well, we probably take it away and say, wait a minute, you can't go out until you learn how to use this thing. Should you need to use it?
Well, obviously different people have their own skill sets, and some people are more comfortable with firearms than others.
Sure.
If someone's having difficulty with the sidearm or with any of our weapons, that's when our job really, it becomes more important for us to know what we're doing, because we're not just people who go out and test you and qualify you, but we also have to teach the marksmanship fundamentals, teach people how to handle the weapons safely, effectively, and build their confidence with the guns.
Sure. One of the things that is extremely noticeable at the range when we run that, when you folks run that, is the emphasis and the focus on safety. And I think we'll talk more about that when we see some of the demonstrations on before you go into the range and shoot, some of the discussions about the shotgun and about the AR-15 and the different, you know, the different pieces and what they do and why it's important and you know, why the officers need to know this. And we'll also talk about the safety thing, but the actual range, you know, when we run the range, and I think that's important for people to know. First off, where is the range? That might be. We want to keep that a secret. That's a secret. We can't tell you, folks.
That's not public knowledge.
That's not public knowledge. We can't really. That really wasn't us out there shooting. We just took the clips. Actually, the military has been very kind to us.
They have been very good. We use the Coast Guard range over the Otis base, and the Coast Guard personnel out there have been absolutely phenomenal with us over the years, accommodating us to come out there for the training. We can't say enough good things about those folks.
Right, and that doesn't. You know, that makes it easier for the town of Falmouth.
Absolutely.
As far as having us, you know, having a place for us to go and to shoot. It's a great facility, and you know, it really is it's a good experience. You know, in that environment, it really works. So, anything else on the handgun as far as you know, that you'd like to add? I know we saw the clips. You know, that's pretty much the training, and then maybe let's talk about where that is in the force continuum, so people also know that.
That would be the very top of the force continuum, which is deadly force. It's our last resort as a police officer. Or maybe a subject who has a weapon, and anytime we use a handgun, it has to be the death or serious injury has to be involved. And that's where we want to stop the subject. Police officers, we never shoot to kill, we shoot to stop. That's always said. We want to shoot and just stop a subject from either further, you know, using deadly force on the public or using deadly force against ourselves. But that's the very top, it's the very last resort for us, force-wise. And we want to just stop a subject's actions who are it's a very deadly situation.
And people will say, "Come on, you know, I've watched TV, and why don't you just shoot? Why don't you shoot him in the elbow or shoot him in the shoulder? You know, just to stop. You know, the old cowboy movies, and you know, nobody ever gets hurt when you shoot him in the shoulder, and just stop him. You know, and kind of teach him that."
Go ahead.
Everybody wants to talk about this one. All right, everybody gets a chance to chime in on this.
Go ahead, Todd.
Well, I would challenge anybody. I would challenge anybody to try to shoot a moving target the size of a handgun, particularly in a high-stress situation. And I don't care how good you are. And I like to think that our instructors are pretty good with a handgun. And that's a task that I think is unreasonable to expect of anybody. That's a Hollywood phenomenon.
Sure. Yeah, no, it really is. It really is. Eric?
I think that people, they don't look at threat perception also. What the officer perceives to be a deadly threat might not be, you know, the same to me as maybe a smaller female officer.
Sure.
I think the people that view this stuff, they have to look at threat perception and how we see it through our eyes. The stuff that we, you know, have to make judgments on in a split second, they might litigate in court for years.
Sure. Sure. Oh, and certainly can analyze and tear the whole situation apart.
You can't say enough for the elements of perspective and perception in a situation like that, to touch on what Eric is saying. And you can see videos of, you know, cruiser camera videos or independent video that it's just looking at a situation from a different angle than the police officer saw, and you get an entirely different opinion of what went on. And so it's very important to understand that we train our officers to make their independent decisions, not on what they see their brother officers doing or sister officers, but on what their independent observations are.
Sure. No, and that makes sense. James, did you have something to add to that?
No, just as I was saying, we shoot to stop a subject, and we want to stop a subject the fastest way we can if he's using deadly force against somebody. And the quickest way to stop a subject is to shoot him center mass and try to end that situation as quickly as possible and take him into custody or stop his deadly behavior.
Right.
And that's why they teach us, mass criminal justice says we're supposed to shoot center mass. We don't shoot, you know, the leg or the arm, or shoot the gun out of the hand or anything crazy like that.
No, that's definitely Hollywood stuff. You know, and the other thing, people may say, well, geez, you know, this person was shot, you know, 3 or 4 times and not just once. Maybe a little comment on that, you know, and about the way we train our officers. You know, again, when we train them, you know, to stop a threat.
Absolutely, and that's just it in a nutshell. Is you want to stop the threat. You can shoot somebody, and you can hit them, and it can be a lethal hit, and they can continue to fight for a considerable period of time.
Sure.
And our job is to like we've said repeatedly, establish control to end that threat. We have to continue to take our action until the threat subsides or is over.
Right.
And if the subject's actions cause us to have to fire repeated shots for whatever the case is, it's unfortunate, but that's our job.
Sure, and that makes perfect sense. And I think we can let's take a look at some of the other. I think we have a clip on the shotgun, and this is Officer Eisen who's explaining some of the nomenclature and the aspects of that. Anybody want to comment on that, and maybe or what he's doing and why? And those are some of the officers that are at the range, you know, and they'll shortly be going into that facility to shoot.
Yeah, before we do any type of qualification, we reacquaint the officers with their firearms. Just so they know what exactly the parts are, you know, just to go through what the proper safety procedures are for the shotgun, the proper loading procedures for the range, and we do that before every qualification, just so officers are, just to kind of refresh them on different parts of each firearm. Mm-hmm. And so we just go through our, safe procedures, how to properly load, unload, and things like that.
Malfunction drills, if you have a bad feed and you need to clear it out, if you're having an issue with any of the firearms, we go over all that prior to going onto the firing line and just offer that refresher every time. And
we still use a 12-gauge shotgun, which is, that's been in police departments for a long time. Yeah. It's probably the first, long gun that they had.
Yes.
Way back when.
Since I came on in '97, and even before that, we've got a spotless safety record at the range. We've never had an accident, knock on wood.
Yes.
And I think a lot of it's due to the time that we take explaining this stuff. It's no nonsense. We're it's all business when we're on.
Oh yeah, no, and I think that's really important. And that's why we take the time, to reacquaint, with the weapons. The officers that are getting ready to go into the range, because obviously, we're all going into that facility, and it's an extremely controlled environment in terms of safety and commands, and everybody does the same thing. I don't care if you're a chief, a captain, a sergeant, a patrol officer, everybody gets treated the same. The sergeant or the officers in controls that range. That's their range, and in there is no rank. It's not the chief doing what he wants to do, or the captains. Everybody does what the range officer instructs us to do.
And we also like to, it's so strict, it's very strict at the range. And I think that adds also an element of stress on the officers, which, we like to put a little bit of stress on them at the range, just so they get that feeling, that they may be under when they're in an actual firefight.
Sure.
And so that's what we also like to do.
Mm-hmm. Anything else on that? No? All right, that's pretty. How about the, I think we have another clip on the AR-15. We'll talk a little bit about that and how that's used.
The AR-15 is the patrol rifle. We have them issued into all of our police vehicles, and we have actually some specialized ones that are assigned to the special response team as well. But it's a functional equivalent of what the military uses, the M16. A lot of the guys, a lot of the folks that work with us have prior military experience, so they're already familiar with this weapon and are very competent with it. Some of the people that haven't had the military experience need a little more coaching to become familiar and comfortable with it. But across the board, when people become comfortable with this weapon, it's far and away the preferred weapon in the department in terms of its ability to effectively and quickly end a bad situation.
And that's a weapon that is kept in all the patrol vehicles?
All the patrol vehicles have an AR-15 assigned to them, as well as a shotgun, just to have the force options available.
And I believe those came about really big with police officers because of the LA bank robberies, the Bank of America, where the police were outgunned with AK-47s, and all we had was shotguns, and we're trying to defeat body armor, and so police departments really adopted the AR-15 patrol rifle as a result of the North Hollywood bank robbery, and also certain active shooter situations in schools, and it started coming about, and it was just more of a superior weapon used by police officers.
And rather than just have it restricted to an exclusive few.
Yeah.
Everyone is trained.
Yeah.
They're available in the cruisers, and they know how to access them, and they also know how to use them. And how to
Yeah, we're very fortunate in Falmouth to have that kind of access to quality weapons.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of police departments don't have near the inventory that we have. We have those rifles issued in every cruiser, available to every officer on the street.
Right.
And that's a phenomenal thing.
Right.
And that
No,
target just
it is.
shows how accurate it is.
That's my
Yes.
target. That's the chief's
that's the
target.
chief's target right
They
there.
did pretty good. Yeah.
As we could say, I would probably say, hands down, I'd say almost all officers probably score 100,
Yeah.
if not high 90s with that rifle.
Oh, yeah.
It's so accurate.
Yeah, it really is. I know the
Yeah.
first time I had shot one many years ago, but just last year when I qualified with it, wow, it was just
Yeah.
extremely accurate. I mean, just and real easy to use. So, you know, and an effective weapon. And I think, you know, it's important, and I think you've done a great job describing the weapons and how we use them. But it's important for people to know that, you know, they're very fortunate that we do have those kinds of you know, pieces of equipment available to us in Falmouth on a regular basis, and it only serves to, you know, to keep them safe and
Yes.
to keep the officers safe. And as Sergeant said, and Sergeant Reed said, you know, not every department has that. They don't have the kind of equipment that we're so fortunate to have. So people should be very thankful that you know, they provided it for us, and
Yep.
it's certainly used appropriately. As far as you know what, let's talk a little bit about. We'll get back to the whole force continuum. I'd like to kind of go through that for people, you know, before we end the show. And we do have a few minutes to go, but let's talk about the latest the latest tool in our arsenal, the less lethal.
Oh, yes.
And that, people say, what the heck's
Yeah.
that? Well, it's a less lethal shotgun, if
Yes.
you will. Officer Rogers is a trained instructor
Yes.
in the use of less lethal, and it's relatively new to Falmouth,
Yep.
and it's certainly an important tool that we're very anxious to have and we have available now. And maybe
Yeah.
you can talk a little bit about that, James.
Less lethal is mostly what we consider less lethal. We're talking about beanbags. It's a way of ending a violent situation with very little injury. It could end, usually somebody is armed with a knife or they're extremely violent, and a beanbag round is able to hit them, incapacitate them, and we're able to take them into custody, where without that, our only use would be deadly force. It's just another tool. It doesn't replace deadly force, because people would think that, oh, you're going to just use a beanbag and shoot them, and now how come when somebody pulled a gun on me, I didn't shoot a beanbag at them? It's not to replace deadly force. It's just another tool we can use to hopefully save a person's life. A lot of times, I'd say the most times it's used is suicidal suspects, and if they're armed with a knife, it's probably the most times it's used.
Sure.
And that's to save that person's life, who may be distraught. And that's what, I mean, our main job is saving lives.
Exactly.
And that's what our goal is.
Yeah.
Our goal is always to save somebody's life out there. But it's a great tool for the police department to use. And, you know, when we're hoping to deploy it into the department arsenal and maybe save somebody's life one day who
Sure.
may need some help.
They do work. You know, I
Yeah.
know we used it a lot when I was in the Pittsfield Police Department, and it was extremely effective. And I know in situations where you had the proper distance with someone with an edged weapon, they were used very successfully, or you know, some other type of weapon that they might have been using. Again, not a handgun or that type of thing, but it did, and it also, you know, helps us resolve situations where people may get into a situation where they want to end their lives, but they want a police officer to do it for them.
Yeah.
And suicide by cop. And I think this is a tool that we have that will, in many cases, help us prevent that.
Yeah.
So, you know, it just will. And, you know, when it's appropriate, you know, it'll be used. So people are trained. We have our sergeants all
Yep.
trained in the use of that. And they're deployed. They will be deployed
Yeah, very soon.
Very soon.
Just
So
get a
it's a-
couple loose ends done with the policy and procedure end, but everyone, all the sergeants are trained, and
Yeah.
hopefully it'll be operational very soon and get that
Good.
out there.
Good. No, and I think it's important, you know, again, just to point out that we do have, you know, very strict regulations on the way that we use this equipment. It's not taken lightly. It's either regulated through, you know, state standards or our policies and procedures at the Falmouth Police Department, and people are trained. They're very well trained in Falmouth on how to use, you know, the equipment that they're issued.
Yeah.
And I think that's That's a testament to, you know, the type of thing that we value in the Falmouth Police Department, and the fact that we have so many trained instructors like yourself, who, you know, go the extra mile, spend the extra time with people to make sure that they can handle themselves and the equipment, you know, appropriately. So, any parting comments? I know we're just about running out of time here.
I say you never know what the next 911 call is going to be, and that's why you need the tools and you need the training, and never know what that next call is going to be. And definitely with our training and the tools we have, hopefully we'll be able to handle it.
I couldn't say it any better. That was excellent.
That's something.
My God. And then I think we're just going to end the show. That was great. Absolutely, very well said. Very well said. Well, thanks for joining me today. I think it was a great show. You guys did a great job, and you continue to do a great job. And folks, I think it's important to know that you know, with men like this that are willing to volunteer to become instructors and willing to spend time with the men and women of the Falmouth Police Department, we're all in good hands, and they do a great job. And I'll tell you, since I've been here, and it's only been 2 years, the thing that I've noticed is the professionalism. We take this very seriously, and the safety, the concern for safety, whether it be at the range or in any type of training. It's taken extremely seriously, and because they know, you know, we at the Falmouth Police Department have a mission, and that mission is extremely important, and that mission is to protect you, our community. So thanks for joining me behind the badge, and remember, if you see it, if you hear it, report it. Thanks again for joining us.
For spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea.